Mr. X with the Xtreme channel here. Today we are not going to talk about collecting. You know what? Actually we are. But today we're going to talk about something that inspires collecting. Yes, movies. We're going to talk about cinema. And I narrowed it down initially to the 10 greatest movies of all time, and then it was 12, then it was 20, so somewhere in there. We're just going to talk about the greatest movies of all time. How it relates to the Xtreme collection is some of these greatest movies, I have a lot of autographed memorabilia from them. So while this isn't going to be a room tour, as I talk about each movie and why it's the best, we're going to throw some shots of the Xtreme cave and where that autographed memorabilia is. Next thing I have for you guys is I want to know your favorite movie right now. Right now in the comments, go ahead and put your favorite movie below. And then if you think of another one, go ahead and add that. Sometimes it's hard to just pick one. But so go ahead and do that. I'll wait. I know you haven't done it yet. Do it. Alright, fine. Let's just go. You spoil everything. Mr. X with the Xtreme channel. Today we are counting down the top 12 films of all time per Mr. X's opinion. So as a disclaimer, we love putting up disclaimers on this channel. You can disagree with me. It is your human and God-given right. It does not mean that I am wrong, and it does not mean that you are wrong. Wow. What a concept. But with that, let's just kind of dive right in. And when I looked at the different movies of all time, what makes an amazing film, or what makes an extreme film, the first, I came down to 4 qualifications, essentially. The first qualification is it has to have characters that you attach to. You have to have some type of emotional attachment to the characters. You have to be rooting for them to win or lose, depending on whatever they may be in the movie. But I think there has to be enough character development and attachment for the viewer to actually enjoy it. The second thing is, I think it has to be a timeless movie that you don't mind watching over and over again. That every single time it pops on the TV, you kind of stop and you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. I think I'll watch this guy. Another qualification for sure. You have to be able to watch it over and over again. Third part is the storyline has to flow, has to have some continuity. And one of the things you're going to see, and some of the ones I've picked, you may be like, whoa, that story's kind of out all over the place. But it has to be one that you enjoy the flow, so there's not a ton of downtime. So for example, Endgame is not in my list. And I think one of the reasons it's not on my list because it has the best fight scene in the world, but that doesn't make the movie. And you can argue there's some other things that make the movie. But the entire movie has to make the movie, not just a quintessential piece or two. And the fourth part for me is it has to be an amazing ending. It has to have a great ending. And this doesn't necessarily mean a very climactic ending, but it leaves everything, man, that was cool. So it may not necessarily close everything out, but it's just an awesome ending. I think if a film has a poor ending, then it is a complete bomb on all levels. So with that, let's kind of dive in, and I'm going to start with some honorable mentions that are probably in most people's top 10, and this is in no particular order. So I'm gonna shoot from the hip. One of my favorite movies growing up was Blues Brothers. I think this is an ingenious film. There are so many one-liners in here that are subtle that people do not really understand or get or remember for that most part. And it's not because they're delivered poorly. It's just there's so many subtle things hidden in there. And it's comedic entertainment at its finest. You always try and count how many cop cars they crash, and there's millions. But Blues Brothers, Dan Aykroyd, and the late Belushi. It is just a fantastic film. I'm going to try and not say fantastic so much, and I could watch it over and over again. Another one, growing up, I watch every time it's on TV, so it definitely hits that qualification. I think Jaws. Jaws is that timeless movie. The character development with Brody and Quinn, and of course Richard Dreyfuss is just fantastic. You're rooting for them in certain directions. And what I like about Jaws is I think there's a lot of downtime in the movie. Yet it doesn't seem like there's downtime. So it progressively keeps you on your toes and you keep waiting for the next big thing. Another one I was kind of shocked is no Star Wars movie made it in my top 10 list, so I had to throw a Star Wars movie in for honorable mention. And like most people, I think Empire Strikes Back, the episode 5, the second installment of the film, is the best movie. From the battle on Hoth at the beginning, and Luke going to Dagobah, Cloud City, you don't know Han's fate. And what I like about Empire is, while you don't know Han's fate, and it still wraps up like it's an okay movie. I remember at the end scene where Luke and Leia are standing there after he got his robot hand, and you're all happy. You forget what happened to Han, but it's all good. So I think it hits all the points on the list, and it's a fantastic movie to be made in the honorable mention. Another one that I think, this is the one I was referring to when we talked about continuity that some people don't get, is Memento. I think Memento is fantastic. I love Guy Pearce. He is he just knocks characters out of the park, whether it's in LA Confidential or Iron Man 3. He just does a great job delivering that role, very believable. And it's no different in Memento, and I think the concept behind Memento is fantastic. And at the end, of course, you have this huge, with no spoiler, an ending that's like, oh my God. And I love that. I think it's a fantastic twist, and just leaves you wanting more. And with that, a very similar one with a crazy ending that I think helped make the movie is Inception. It's an amazing film. I believe it's a Christopher Nolan film. And Leonardo DiCaprio, I hate him because of Titanic, but no one can deny he is an amazing actor. And it's an all-star studded cast in this. Tons and tons of well-known actors. I can't think of any off the top of my head because I didn't plan ahead that well. I have a list of my movies, but I don't plan which direction I'm going to go in. But I think Inception is just a great movie. It was unique. Kind of a stretch, but I like movies like that. And quite a few on my list are kind of a stretch as far as concept. Another honorable mention growing up, Terminator 2, timeless, classic. I think Terminator 1 rivals it in many ways, but I think Terminator 2 takes the cake. I loved how the real introduction to CGI was through Terminator 2. It necessarily wasn't the film that pioneered it by any means, but it was the one that got the most recognition. The storyline, there are plot holes in the time traveling, of course, but I love how you have an attachment to a cyborg. You are sad when he dies at the end. I cried. Not really. I don't cry. I don't have a heart. But some people cried, I'm sure. And I think they developed the characters well. The story is fantastic. It's something different for the time. While I'm filming this, I still haven't seen the new one. Even though everyone keeps saying it's bombing at the box office, but everyone who has seen it says it's really good. I'm going to wait till it comes out on DVD, which if it's bombing, will be in a month. Another one I'm surprised didn't make my top 10 or top 12. I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. I love almost any movie he does, from the old stuff like True Romance to some of the newer films he's came out with. I love his style. I love some of some of his art direction, actually, believe it or not. And I think Pulp Fiction is definitely one of the best movies of all time. Again, it's really out there, and it really lets you know how crazy the director's mind is. But I actually have a huge autographed collage of all the main actors. And speaking of actors, he always has a star-studded cast. Uma Thurman, Harvey Keitel, John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson. It's too dark to see who else over there. But and so many great one-liners from that, especially Samuel L. Jackson. And who else doesn't want a Big Kahuna Burger? Don't you want a Big Kahuna Burger? I've wanted one all my life. I show up in a restaurant called the Big Kahuna Burger. And honorable mention, let's see, we have two more. This one's probably at the bottom of my honorable mention, and I'm actually in the process of about to watch it again right now, but it is Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I'm not sure why I put this in there, probably because I didn't want to piss off the Lord of the Ring fans, but it's been so long since I've watched it, I've got to rewatch it. But I do remember, I think it does a good job closing out the movie. The ending is probably what bothers me. You know, you didn't need a 45-minute ending to tell me everybody lived happily ever after. But Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, again, all-star studded cast. You find out the fates of everybody, tons of action, tons of cool fighting. You've been rooting for Viggo Mortensen to reclaim, and he finally does. Good film. And the last one in my honorable mention, and this one I'm shocked didn't make the top 12, but it didn't, so deal with it. It might, actually, I'd probably replace number 12 with this one. You know, we're going to do that right now because we don't plan what we say. So the new honorable mention is Beautiful Mind. When I first saw this movie and he was diagnosed with his condition, I thought that the doctors were in on it. That's how good they had me sold that this was real. And I'm not going to say any more in case you haven't seen it, but Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, one of the most beautiful and elite actresses on the planet. She's actually married to his roommate in college. Not for real, but Vision. Jennifer Connelly is married to, I can't remember his name. Someone comment his name. Kind of interesting. But I think it's a fantastic film. And that film, I don't cry, but at the end, when he's giving a speech, you know, thanking his wife, I actually kind of tear up. It's really cool to see someone overcome those obstacles, which I think is another big part of cinema. I think we are always rooting for that person to win. I remember in college, right when reality shows were just starting, like American Idol and Survivor, I wrote a paper on why people loved reality shows so much, and the realism of it was that I came to the conclusion people love to see the underdog win. They absolutely love it. It's one of the best things in the world to see someone come up and take what's not theirs in a good earning way. And then people love to see people fail. They absolutely love to see the people fall flat on their face. They love to see the wicked, the bad singers, whatever you want to call it. So that was my honorable mention. So this is going to be a much longer video than I thought. So thanks for hanging in there. But let's get to the top 12. I think these are the top 12 movies of all time, as by Mr. X's opinion. And I'm going to elaborate on each one as I have done with the honorable mentions. But let's start. Dark Knight, Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, Morgan Freeman, Aaron Eckhart, who's the girl? Maggie Gyllenhaal, Michael Caine. I mean, one of the best actors of all time. What's his name? Commissioner Gordon. I cannot think of his name. It's early in the morning. You know who I'm talking about. He's like the best actor of all time. How can I? Oh, it just hit me. This is probably driving me nuts. I can't think of it. So we're just going to keep going. But The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's last film, and even without Heath Ledger, this was an amazing film. The concept just blew me away. If they had another actor who played Joker who knocked it out of the park, it would be still an amazing film. Maybe not quite as good, but definitely up there. I love the action, I love the storyline, and I love the character development you see on everybody. Not only Christian Bale as Batman, but Alfred and the family connections of Gordon. So very, very cool film. Definitely top 12. Like I said, just got promoted. Some of these that I'm going to go through, believe it or not, they're not going to be action-filled movies. Even though I love action movies, I think I only have one or two more in the top 12. But let's jump right into number 11. And when we talk about art, direction, and imagery, this is where this one takes the cake. And the cast, of course. But American Beauty. It's one of those movies, the first time you watch it, you're like, oh, that was weird, but good. But the more you watch it, the more entranced you become. Again, tied to the characters, great cast, great execution, great storyline. And it's set up from the front, the very beginning of the movie is the main character, Kevin Spacey. He's the narrator, and he tells you, he's going to tell you about when he was alive. And halfway through the movie, you forget that he's going to die at the end. So it's not a spoiler or anything, but it's just you're so enthralled with the movie and you keep going. So American Beauty, that's my number 11. My number 10, also a very sentimental movie with a little bit of action in it. You have $1 Million Baby. Hilary Swank just knocked this role out of the park. You are so attached to her character. You are so attached to Clint Eastwood. I love stuff that Clint Eastwood directs, and I obviously love him as an actor. And you just want them to win. You are right there with them every step of the way. It's that classic story I was kind of talking about, the underdog finally winning, getting success. The ending, most people don't like the ending, and did I just say don't? But anyway, people didn't like the ending. I didn't either. I'm just being honest with you. I think it closed it out fine. Again, trying not to give away spoilers, but I think the reason people didn't like it is because it wasn't the norm. People are used to an ending that is happy and go lucky and success, and there was success in this, you just didn't see it. Number 9, and this could be because I'm a sucker for Will Smith, who I think ever since I saw him cry on Uncle's shoulder with wondering why his dad didn't want him, amazing actor. Pursuit of Happiness. If you have not seen this and you like movies that tie at your heartstrings, go check this out right away. It's a story of a guy who's just had it rough in life, ends up being homeless with his son, and ends up becoming a millionaire. And it's based off of a true story. And Will Smith pulls out the role like he always does. You're rooting for him, for his son. You get attachment to other characters in it. And, I've never been in that type of situation where I'm sleeping in a subway, but he makes you understand what it could possibly feel like. So very, very cool flick. Number 8, also an emotional film, and I had to watch this for a college class, and I didn't, and it's actually a foreign film, so it's subtitle only, but foreign if you're from the States like I am. And I started watching it for the assignment and just kind of briefly, I was distracted, but the more I watched it, the more I loved it, and it's an amazing film. It's called Life is Beautiful, and it's set in World War II, and I had no idea what the film was about. So at the beginning, this man starts courting this woman, and he's hilarious, and he's passionate about life. He absolutely loves life, and they have a child, and then World War II starts, and they are Jews, so they get hauled off to concentration camps. And it's a story, his son actually is in the concentration camp too, which, go check out the movie if you want to know more. It's really a story about you can be happy in any situation. Granted, they weren't happy in that, but there's always hope. There's always an end, and it has an ending that necessarily isn't that pleasant, but it makes you smile. So very cool film. Life is Beautiful. I believe it's a French film, or it's Italian maybe. I don't remember. I just remember I had to read the subtitles, and I have it in Blu-ray wrapped up, unopened. Now for number 7, we are going to jump into a huge action film, Avengers Infinity War. And this was really close. I'm surprised I don't have the first Avengers movie on here, but I thought this is amazing. I thought it's much better than Endgame. Again, the end was shocking. If you haven't seen it by now, these are spoilers. Thanos kills half of the universe. You have some personal ties to each character, whether it's Iron Man and Cap, potentially working together again. You're scared for them. You're excited during their wins. The action is amazing. I think Infinity War is one of the best movies of all time. Honorable mention, I should have mentioned the original Avengers movie. That also gave me those same feelings. 20 years ago, I would have always said this is the number 1 movie of all time because of some of the barriers it broke, and it's the classic action hero type movie is Braveheart with Mel Gibson. This is an amazing film. Again, it's an amazing ending. It doesn't follow the typical norm of hero wins all, but the heroes still win even though they don't. Very much reminds me of 300. Why don't I have 300 on this fucking list? You know what? We're going to do top 13. Hint, 300 is next. Probably tied with this one. So Braveheart, fantastic movie. Huge character development again. The one thing I didn't like, though, is how he was fighting for his murdered wife, and then he sleeps with the queen. I thought, and back then, well, even probably today, that's pretty common. I guess if Sophie Marceau wanted to sleep with me and she was a queen and my wife was dead, it would probably happen. But anyway, yeah, so Braveheart, I think it's an awesome movie. I put it as number 6, and tied with number 6 is 300, one of the most awesome action-filled movies of all time. I had no idea what 300 was, and my best friend, his wife was throwing him a 30th birthday party 11 years ago, 12 years ago, and it was a surprise birthday party, and she asked, can you get him out of the house? He really wants to go see this movie. So it's like, fine. So we took him, and I sit there. I had no idea what it was about. Didn't even have a clue it was about Spartans or anything like that. I've never read the comics. And I love this movie. This empowers you. It really reminds you that if you want peace, get ready for war. One of my favorite sayings. If you really want what needs to be done, you're going to have to fight for it. It may not be physically while they had to, but fantastic movie. Again, all-star cast. You know, he has Magneto in there. He has, not Boromir, Boromir's brother in there. Tons and tons of stars. Lena, I think her name, Lena Headey. Xerxes, he's not a huge actor, but awesome film. I could watch that over and over. Number 5, I'll never forget, this was my first date with a girl I actually got really close to and I lived with for a few years. And we had no idea what this film was about. But the first rule about the film is you do not talk about the film. And obviously I'm talking about Fight Club here. First time we watched this, we're like, what the hell did we just watch? Then you watch it again and again and again. And it turns out this movie is genius. It is so impeccably done, from, you know, the cigarette burns of Brad Pitt coming in, to how he never uses his real name, to it is so cool. And I think some of the points that they make are very valid. That's what I love, is when a film makes really valid points. That's why I'm actually a fan of Eminem music. I think he does that. But we're pressured to buy stuff that we don't need with money we don't have. I mean, that's very, very true. Look at statue collecting. I'm not really pressured, though. I'm just uncontrollable. Film number 4, I think one of the best films of all time. Action-packed, star-studded cast again. My favorite director, Aliens. I love this more than the original. I know that's sometimes an unpopular opinion with people from the older days. This, again, if it's on TV, you stop and watch it. I probably watched the DVD movie 1,000 times. So many great one-liners in there. The story is impeccable. The Sigourney Weaver, you will not find a better female heroine than that. I think it is done really well, and it's one of those movies that it's not scary as I'd have nightmares about that, but it's I hope I don't end up there kind of scary. So great film. Aliens, number 4 on my list. Number 3, how could I not say Andy Dufresne? Star-studded cast. I know that's apparently in every movie they have star-studded casts, but Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman, probably more. I'm not thinking off the top of my head. If you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, it is I'm surprised it's not number 1. What do I have for number 1? Oh yeah, next two do beat it. It's one of the best movies of all time. He is falsely imprisoned for something he did not do, and he makes a life in prison, and that's all I can say. And I know that sounds boring. It is not. And just like Fight Club, you know, you watch this a million times, you always see something new. You're like, wow, that tied into the story really well. I didn't quite understand why he said that or why he did that, but now that I've seen the whole thing and I know what happens at the end, wow. So Shawshank Redemption, fantastic film. It's one you could watch it over and over. However, I wish I could go back and watch it again for the first time, because if you've seen it, you know the ending. Number 2, and maybe it's just because I love Kevin Spacey, he's got 2 spots in here, but Kaiser Sose, The Usual Suspects. Amazing, amazing film, again with one of the biggest twisted endings we've ever seen, especially at that time period when it was released. It's full of action, full of character development. You're really scared for these characters. You want Keaton to succeed, who's essentially an evil criminal. The cop you actually do not like, well, one of the cops, but it's a great storyline. It's ingeniously done. I think the execution was perfect. It's now it's hard to say it's a whole older film, but it really is. So that brings us back to the number 1 film of all time, in my opinion. When I look at this film, does it hit all 4 things? Can I watch it over and over? Absolutely. Is there character development? Probably like more than any other film we've discussed. Is the story captivating the entire time, and is the ending great? The only thing I would kind of knock on this movie, which I haven't said what it is yet, is the ending. But I think it's a morality ending, and it really teaches you. It just really teaches you. So the one I'm talking about is you have an individual who is falsely led to believe that other races are inferior. And he ends up going to jail for it. And while in jail, he realizes things aren't as they seem. So he comes out and he tries to change his life. And I know that sounds really boring, but go watch American History X. It is amazing. It is one of the best films. It is the best film ever made, I believe. Again, star-studded cast, famous actors, and it's really done well. And I've never looked at Edward Norton the same. Gary Oldman, that's Commissioner Gordon's name. Son of a bitch. Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman, I would say, is a better actor than Edward Norton, but Edward Norton plays this role like no one else ever has. I mean, well, no one's ever played the role, but you know what I mean. He was the perfect guy for the role. It's an awesome, awesome movie. It really makes you relate with so many different people, and I think the other reason I think it's such an amazing film is because it teaches a powerful lesson, an extremely powerful lesson, and it's not just on the surface level either, but it's much deeper. It has one of my favorite line, or probably my favorite line from any movie, and without getting too personal about Mr. X's past, somebody asked me this once, and the line is, has anything you've done actually made your life better? And that's kind of when the guy has the come to Jesus moment. He realizes that his whole life has been a lie. But if you have not seen that film or any of these films, go check them out. They are fantastic. You will thank me for it. Some of them might be a little weird, but there are so many other films probably I missed. Like I said, I thought of 300 while I'm talking here, so I'm sure there's a few more I missed that I would put in my top 12, or at least the honorable mention. But thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. Kind of boring to sit here and look at my face, so I'll see how many pictures, well, it's too late now, you've already seen it, but I'll see how many pictures I can get to throw in there. And I should have planned a little bit better what I'm going to say, but I'm going to do some segments like this moving forward. Going to do movies, or sorry, not movies, going to do statues, going to do TV shows, all that good stuff. So this is my first time. I'm no longer a virgin, and now neither are you. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And again, as a reminder, please put down your favorite film of all time below. And if someone has a different favorite film than you, it's okay. Take care, guys.